What is going on, dudes and lady dudes? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today, doing a little video, just kind of recapping YCS Milan, or at least like the results of YCS Milan, just to give you guys a better idea of what's like more actively going on in the game. Because even events from a week ago might look a little different from stuff now. I mean, you saw some breakout Sky Striker Orcus in the last weekend, and then a bunch of people jumped on it, and then it got a good amount of tops in this. So it wasn't just, you know, the I don't know. It's not in the just breakthrough phase anymore. It's like a legit thing, and just going through some of the other decks that happen to top here, and just going through. All right, so we're just gonna start from the most represented and work our way down here. Obviously, Orcus Pure was going to be the most represented. We knew that coming into here. We have 9 out of top 32. That's a good amount, but there's other Orcus type decks that we'll see here in a minute. This has been considered the best deck in the game. This is the deck that pretty much everybody is expecting to get probably destroyed on the next ban list. It's been around for a while now. And I think a lot of players are tired of it, and it's just been the best deck for too long. Next up, we have Sky Striker Orcus, the next representative. I told you it broke out last weekend for the first time, and now it's getting seven slots of top cut at this YCS. So it's legit. It's really good. I mean, you're just combining two really powerful engines that can work together if you know how to play it. And then if you're adding up Orcus tops, this ends up being 16 Orcus tops, and we'll even say there's even more coming through. So deck's good. definitely keep an eye out on it. And then we really dip down from there, right? We get a lot more diverse. So then we have 4 pure Sky Strikers. And even if you want to count Sky Strikers, I mean, like, Sky Striker Orcus, it's not so much actual... I mean, like, I don't know. It's like... Yeah, if you want to count that as strikers, you can count this as 11 Sky Striker tops, which is actually a lot. It's more than like we've been seeing from Sky Strikers in the last couple months. So if anything, that gets Striker closer to getting hit again. A lot of people have been calling for it, but I am on the fence on whether or not I think they'll get hit, just because we've got 2 new cards coming on an Ignition Assault on January 31st, and then we've got the new Sky Striker Link 2 coming, confirmed for Dual Overload, coming in mid-March. So like 2 months to like a couple weeks after, and then 2 months later, we're getting new striker cards. So I don't know if they plan on hitting it, like taking away people's interest because they don't think the new cards will be good enough, and then the new cards come out and they don't actually sell just because people are like, strikers are done. But we'll see. We'll see what happens there. Maybe just another little nick, engage to 2, something like that. Just hurt the consistency and power just a little bit more. Then we have 4 Salamangreats. This is not too surprising either. It's about where we've been seeing Salamangreat. Hasn't been taking the most top cuts in really any events. That's been going to really Orcus and Orcus alone. But Salamangreats are there. They're a good deck. They're I would say they don't have as much power as a lot of decks, but they have consistency, and they have the ability to grind a lot more than a lot of other decks do. So a lot of people like it. It is super weak to Nibiru. This is why I think over the course of a long tournament, when everybody probably has Nibiru in the side, it becomes very hard to top with Salamangreat. So even more credit to these players here being able to overcome that card. And yeah, it's a solid deck. It's a solid deck for sure. Next up, we have Pendulum. 3 Pendulum. This is where I'd been hoping to see Pendulum over the last little bit, but actually this is more than what we've been seeing normally. Normally we're seeing like 1, maybe 2 Pendulums, like getting to top cuts for YCSs, and not even that many in regionals either. But it's nice to see them getting a couple here. 3. I thought 3 to 4 is where we probably should be seeing Pendulum, because they're strong. They play through hand traps. They can grind just because of the pendulum mechanic. I thought they were better than they had been performing, and this is closer to where I expected them to be. So it's cool to see them stepping up. That's cool. Next up, 2 True Draco. Now this is interesting, because I felt like for the last couple of months, and maybe I just haven't been paying super close attention, we haven't really seen True Draco do anything. Like, we know True Draco players exist because True Dracos are very budget, and just an archetype. Like, there are just a lot of players that just happen to resonate specifically with True Draco. They like that super kind of stunny like play style combined with like floodgates and just a bunch of trap cards and good removal with their spells and traps. But and also like no special summoning, you're pretty much just only normal summon. A lot of players resonated with that, and but we never really saw it getting any tops. Like maybe a few tops here and there with like regionals, but I mean I'm like I said, I might not have been paying the closest attention to True Draco, but I felt like I hadn't seen them in a top cut in a while. And if I did, only one. So it's kind of cool to see them get two top cut slots here. And I also believe somebody said that one of them actually made it to second place, which is actually wild. So that's a whole another beast. So congratulations to those guys for sure. And then we have our one-off decks. We have one Lunalight Orcust. This is our last Orcust list, bumping up Orcust to 17 top cut slots out of top 32. Deck needs to be hit, probably, just cause, you know. We've seen this list going around. I mean, we've seen that this is still playable. We've seen that Cyber Dragon Orcust is still playable, quote unquote playable. It's definitely not the best version of the list, just because it's not as easy to make the Orcust plays just generically off of like Cyber Dragon stuff. You kind of need a combination of both, but they're still pretty good. Lunalight, I think, definitely is the better one out of the two, and I think that's what we're seeing here. It's good, but it usually you only see one or two really good players able to top with them. So it's not surprising only seeing one here, but it does just bump Orcust over the edge. Over 50% of top cut goes to some sort of Orcust variant. I'm sure that deck is going to be hit on the next ban list. I'm pretty positive, right? Next up, one Thunder Dragon. This is another weird one where you're like, True Draco? Pendulum had more top cut slots than Thunder Dragon? You'd expect Thunder Dragon to be up here with like Sallies, Strikers, and Pendulums, right? Like maybe not as high as Orcust, but somewhere in that range, like just because you just hear people talk. Like when you hear people talk about, I don't know, like the decks to watch out for. You hear people that like, I built my deck to handle these matchups. These are the matchups I focused on. Everybody always brings up Thunder. You're like, I want to make sure I have a good Thunder matchup because I expect to see Thunder. And I think Thunder had like decent representation, but only one guy made it. Maybe that has something to do with people are playing the Cypher variant, and I don't think that's particularly good. The new like combo variant with like Levianir again and stuff. I think more players have been playing that, but I don't think that's better. I think with Nibiru running around, I think like hand traps are really tough to that deck if you hit the right stuff. It can just be hard, and I don't know. Like maybe just pure Thunder Dragon isn't strong enough, and Cyphered is too weak to certain stuff like Nibiru, other hand traps. You know, Dark Ruler no more, and then getting your board broken. So maybe it just has its weaknesses and can't overcome that in a long tournament like this. So only one Thunder Dragon, actually surprising, but I don't know. People still keep an eye out on this deck. And the last one here, my favorite deck of all of these, Magical Musketeers. Good to see them. They've been showing out lately. Last week at the PPG Tour, 2 top cut slots, including one guy going to top 4 and one at top 16. That's only 16 like decks, and 2 of them were Musketeers. I don't remember if anybody topped YCS Pasadena with Magical Musketeers, but even so, Magical Musketeers have been consistently getting tops here and there. Like 1 here, 2 last weekend, and then at other we saw. Oh man, I don't remember that player, but he's a pretty well-known player. He's got a good amount of tops and stuff. But he played Magical Musketeers at a YCS like 3 weekends ago, maybe 4, maybe a month ago, and he went 9-2, and his tiebreakers weren't good enough. So there's like that's not a top technically. He didn't top because his tiebreakers weren't good enough. But he got 9-2. Like he had a record easily good enough to make top cut on most weekends at a YCS. So like. It's getting more and more consistent to the point where you ask yourself, are Musketeers even rogue anymore? Or are they just straight up, like, can we call them a tier 2 deck? Are they that good? Because I think that might be what we're seeing here. I think they can play a more control style, but they also have the bonus of if they can resolve a Utopia double play, they're just going to outright win the duel in one shot and just steal games that way. Almost like in the same fashion when Trickstars could steal stuff with like Droll Reincarnation. They were just free games because people didn't play around it. People didn't know to play around it. And I think that I mean, it just over the course of a long tournament, if you scoop up 5 free wins that way, and your deck's already a decent just control deck, you only need to win 50% of your other ones, and then if you can just get 5 free wins, that can just lead you to a really strong record and a top cut, visit on a YCS. So, Musketeer is really, really good. Don't sleep on him for sure. I think a lot of people should be getting more and more aware of this deck and not thinking it's a rogue matchup when they run into it, and thinking if it's like, there's another tier 2 deck that's pretty good and I shouldn't sleep on it. Other than that, what are we missing here? I think really we're missing maybe Sub-Terrors. That's a deck that's, been tier 2 for a while. Don't see it getting a top cut here. I know there's still players out there playing it. We don't see Altergeist here. Kind of the same boat, those stun decks. I think a lot of people have like Red Reboot in the side and like they'll play their Twin Twisters or their Heavy Storm Dusters in the side just when they do run into those matchups. And unfortunately, it looks like this tournament was too much for those decks to overcome. And I don't think we're really missing too much outside of that. Yeah, nothing I can think of. Well, that's pretty much it, guys, looking at YCS Milan. Definitely let me know if you want me to do this a little more often. If we do have bigger tournaments, if you want me to go through the top cut stuff and talk about certain things and what's really happening with a lot of decks and where they're sitting. And, I don't know, just keeping an eye on the meta, just kind of like little meta updates. Let me know. Let me know. I'm definitely down. I like looking at this stuff. Very pleasing to look at these charts. I'm a big chart guy. Anyway, I'm going to get the hell out of here, guys. Thank you so much for watching. As always, subscribe to the channel if you have not yet, and I will see you in the next video. Peace.